All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're breaking down a pretty startling geopolitical analysis that's been making the rounds. It lays out this incredibly detailed and frankly dramatic prediction about a future war involving the United States, a war it says America is destined to lose. So the entire argument hinges on this one stunning claim from an analyst they call Professor Sane. The prediction? That by the year 2026, the United States will be defeated by Iran. Now, that is a massive statement, and the source material we're looking at spends a whole lot of time trying to build a case for how on earth that could actually happen. And that, of course, brings us to the big question, the one we're going to unpack based on this analysis. How could the largest, most advanced military on the planet possibly lose to Iran? Well, the explanation we're given describes this multi-layered strategy that has almost nothing to do with a traditional head-on war. Okay, first things first, we have to talk about the military strategy. The source argues this isn't a fight between tanks and battleships. No, this is a clash of ideas, a concept known as asymmetric warfare. So check this out. The analysis claims the U.S. military is still operating with a Cold War mentality. It's all about building these incredibly expensive, super complex, high-tech weapon systems designed to fight another global superpower. But the strategy it would be facing is the complete opposite. It's all about using cheap, simple, and effective weapons, not to win on the battlefield, but to bleed an economic giant completely dry. And to really get a sense of what that means, let's look at the numbers presented in the source. $2 million. That's roughly the price tag on a single, state-of-the-art U.S. interceptor missile that's designed to shoot down an incoming threat. And this is what they say the drone costs that the $2 million missile is trying to take down. I mean, when you're spending 40 times more to defend than your opponent is spending to attack, the economic math just doesn't work. It's a war of attrition you simply can't win. And here it is, the specific weapon at the center of this whole strategy. The Shahed 136 kamikaze drone is described as a total game changer. It's not trying to be a stealth fighter. Its big advantage is that it's simple, it's got a crazy long range, and it flies super low to the ground, which makes it incredibly hard for those big, expensive air defense systems to even spot, let alone shoot down. Now here's where it gets even trickier. According to this analysis, the strategy is so effective because Iran rarely has to get its own hands dirty. Instead, the claim is that it operates through this huge network of proxy forces all across the Middle East. This creates chaos on multiple fronts, it makes a direct response almost impossible, and it gives Iran plausible deniability for everything that happens. But the military stuff is really only half the story. The second, and maybe even more important layer of this strategy takes aim directly at the global economy. The source lays out this absolutely frightening domino effect. It starts small, with deniable attacks on the critical infrastructure of the Gulf states. We're talking their energy grids and their water plants. The idea is to cripple their economies, which then stops them from exporting oil. And when that happens, the flow of their money into U.S. markets dries up, ultimately bursting what the source calls America's fragile economic bubble. So to really get why that's such a big deal, you have to understand the petrodollar system. The source basically argues that countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE are the secret backbone of the U.S. economy. See, they sell their oil in U.S. dollars, which keeps the dollar powerful, and then they take those billions and pump them right back into U.S. markets, propping up everything from tech stocks to government debt. And the analysis doesn't pull any punches here. It uses some seriously strong language, calling the current U.S. tech boom, especially in AI, a financial Ponzi scheme that's completely dependent on that constant cash infusion from the Gulf. So the theory goes, if you cut off that flow of money, the whole thing just collapses. Okay, and this brings us to the final, and let's be honest, the most conspiratorial part of the whole prediction. If the outcome is so obviously terrible for the US, why would a war like this ever even start? It's the logical next question, right? This analysis doesn't suggest it would all happen by accident. No, it claims there are very specific, hidden reasons pushing the United States towards this exact conflict, even with all the massive risks. The source boils it all down to these three alleged drivers. First, just simple, blinding overconfidence from past military ops. Second, personal, political, and financial gains for the people in charge. And third, well, this is a much deeper theory about a pre-written spiritual script. To back up that claim of personal gain, the source points to what it describes as deep financial links between politicians and powerful foreign backers. It uses this alleged quote as just one example of the kind of immense financial influence that it claims is pulling the strings on these huge geopolitical decisions.
And this is where the theory goes into the deepest territory. It suggests that powerful, secret groups are actually orchestrating world events to make an end times prophecy come true. So from this point of view, the conflict isn't about logic or national interest at all, but about following a predetermined script for a final great war.
So, after all that, what is the ultimate conclusion here? Well, the analysis paints a pretty bleak picture of a conflict that, by its very nature, is completely and totally unwinnable for the United States. And here's the real kicker, the central paradox of this whole thing. This source argues that even if the U.S. military goes in and achieves every single one of its objectives on the ground, the economic fallout from just fighting the war would be so devastating it would be a catastrophic strategic defeat, shattering the very foundation of American economic power. The predicted outcome, then, isn't just about losing a war. It's about the end of an entire era. In this scenario, the collapse of the petrodollar system and the U.S. economy would kickstart a rapid shift to a multipolar world, one where American influence is massively reduced and other powers rise up to fill that vacuum. So what we've just unpacked is one source's incredibly detailed script for a massive global power shift. It's a complex web of military tactics, economic theory, and deep conspiracy. And the question it really leaves you with isn't whether it's true, but whether we might be watching a predictable and preventable strategy unfold right before our eyes.